morning.
Good afternoon.
So, I am Elaine Powell. I have two top priorities that I was thinking about presenting on. One of them is medic, and since we're going through the process of a survey, I was encouraged to do environmental stewardship, which is no problem for me. So one of my core values is environmental stewardship and environmental resilience. And I love that we're talking about the why of what is important to us, because we're so limited in our time talking to each other with the dinger. I didn't even know your story until today, Commissioner Meyer. And I think we need to know each other's stories. So yesterday when Rebecca was talking about, she had this slide where she was talking about roots and intent and integrity and how that's the base of like how we go forward into public service. I was thinking like, wow, I wonder if everyone in this room knows anything about my roots. And so I want to share some of that because, you hear Commissioner SRM, I never heard this phrase until we were elected, that politics is a blood sport. And I thought, what have I gotten myself into? And so there is distrust among some elected leaders. And where does that come from? And like people ask me all the time, what's it like to be elected? And I think, I'm really proud to serve on the Board of County Commissioners because every single person has a passion for serving the public and public good. And so I'm proud of that. Like I wouldn't want to be part of a group where you had to wonder like what people's intentions are. So this is a real awkward space for me to be in, and I want to thank Sean and LaShonda and Kim Henderson and people that make me feel comfortable in this space because I am an introvert and this is a weird space for me. I'm a really good helper. I'm kind of quiet. I'm a really hard worker. And this is year number 36 of me advocating for environmental stewardship. And what is the why? What is the why? So I've been thinking deeply about this for weeks, about sharing this with you, because I've tried to make a difference for so long that maybe I have to climb the mountain a different way. And sharing the why is I think, part of that. So my first memory ever, and this relates to medic in a way, my first memory ever, like when they ask you, what's your first memory? When I was a little girl, my sister flipped on the swing and all her fingers were stuck in the chain of the swings. And I wanted to help her so bad, but I didn't want to hurt her worse. And so I was running and screaming, trying to find somebody to help. And my mother said, "What is it?" And I said, "Her guts are coming out of her fingers." She was really hurt. And so I tell you that because that is who I am. Like when people are in an emergency, I want to help them. And so I went to work in healthcare. It's just who I am. Like I am a caregiver. I went to work in healthcare. And what I learned really early on are so many things that affect people where the researchers suspect, but it was probably an environmental impact. There is so much suffering to human beings and to many other creatures, but there is so much suffering because of environmental impact. And so when I think of the first things that I saw, I had 3 specialty areas: high-risk pregnancy, women's health, and pediatrics. When we would deal with some of the patients, little bitty babies who weren't even a year old with these horrible, terrible cancers that you didn't know where they came from, and then the researchers would come in trying to figure out a treatment for it, there was always a question of, Is this genetic? What is the environmental impact? And so the reason I told you the story about my sister is because I wanted to help. So there's different ways to help, like how do you use your skills and talents to help? So I saw all of that, and it was troubling. Like, you carry it. You carry the suffering, like you want to help. And then one day, and these are things that are singed in your heart like forever. I think of this all the time. Because like it's the why I'm never going to give up. I was walking down the hallway and there was a code blue. So it was a 4-year-old black male who had walked outside on a code orange day. And he was being resuscitated. So he had such a severe asthma attack from walking outside, just walking out the door to the van, that he was clinically dead. And I don't want to give too many details. But the mother grabbed me, and like when you see, and medic knows, when you see these emergency circumstances, you don't know how people are going to act or what they're thinking. But when she grabbed me, she was shouting, screaming, like, "Can you get me a camera?" And you know, this is before cell phones. I was thinking, like, I have no idea why you want a camera, but I want to help you. Well, to summarize it, he was clinically dead. To resuscitate him took back then, a treatment that included part helium, part oxygen, to expand his lungs enough to get enough oxygen in to resuscitate him. It worked. He's still alive. But it was so terrifying, like the intensivist on pediatrics had tears, like this. I mean, these people are used to emergencies, but this is like when you are talking, somebody was talking about like the love you have for your children. I didn't have children yet, but I had the love for that human being of, wow, like all he did was walk outside on a code orange day. And so watching the intensivist cry, talking to the pulmonologist, and a pulmonologist is lung doctor, talking to them, I said, we need to do something. Because I always feel that way, like how can we help? Like the intensivist saved his life with the team. But I said to the pulmonologist, like, we have to do something. Like, and at that time I was young. I thought, well, we'll just go to city council. And I said to the doctor, and I think he's still alive, Dr. Carmine Dalto, I said, we have to do something about air quality. And he said, I said, can you come speak with me? And he said, you can do it. Like, I don't have time, but you can do it. And I was like, I could do it. Like I'm an introvert. But I thought, yeah, I'm going to do it. I practiced and practiced. I was so nervous. I almost fainted. Like, I thought, I'm going to go talk to city council for 3 minutes. I'm going to get my 3 minutes. And now I look back on it thinking, like, I was so naive, believing that 3 minutes was going to make a difference. Not knowing that I should come to the county too, like to talk about it. But that was the beginning, my 3 minutes. And there happened to be people in the audience who, I guess they knew your 3 minutes might not matter. I believed it would matter. And they kind of like adopted me into like being an advocate for the tree canopy. And so now here I am in year number 36. I'm telling you all of this background, so how it started, me wanting to help, believing that's part of our responsibility in life. Like, we all have responsibility to help each other. And so we go from air quality to like loss of tree canopy, and here I am 36 years later, and I'm going to start with my maps. I've done everything I can think of. This is like a new way of communicating today. I've done everything I can think of. I am, like nobody could ever predict I would run for office. I never thought of this. Researchers call and they say, when did you think? Did you know when you were growing up you were going to be an elected leader? No, I had no idea. I kept working to make a difference to where I ended up here because, like, it's the best way to make a difference, is to be involved in the funding. So I just want to thank, I'm going to go through my slides and make sure I don't miss anything, I'm real old-fashioned. So I don't have a PowerPoint, but I have my index cards, and I have my real maps, and then and we'll show the digital maps coming up. There is data from when I started advocating till now, but it's not as reliable in GIS as starting in 2008. So we start in 2008, and I'm just going to walk, maybe I'll carry it out. This is 2008, and I'll get the microphone so you can hear me. This is 2008 above us. And so I want to tell you the pink is the paved part of Mecklenburg County in 2008. The green part is tree canopy in 2008. In 2008 is the last time it was considered like a healthy tree canopy. So it's 50%, which affects air quality. When you work in air quality, you can't help but work with water quality because natural resources are vital to life. So because I'm in these meetings with air quality, I start learning all about the impervious. The pink on the map is impervious. That means it's paved. So in 2008, I don't know if you can see it, but 6% of the county is impervious. That's healthy. It's when you get over 10% that it becomes unhealthy. So 2008, I'm already involved at this point, but if we did better back then, we wouldn't be where we are. So this is 2008. In 2016, and you can see it up here, more pink, more impervious, less trees. Now, the tree canopy has gone from 50% to 48.9. This is significant because the city of Charlotte has a goal of 50% by 2050. But instead, it just keeps shrinking. And now, the county has the pink, impervious, and there is some non-pink impervious, the big highways, so we couldn't pink them out, but they're also impervious. Now, we're at 12%, and we're beyond 10, and it's become an issue. And we can't do more than the state sets as a minimum. This is 2024. This is last year. It's already worse than this. So I haven't shown this map to any person who wasn't shocked by it. The pink is paved. The tree canopy is shrinking. Where you see green now, there's already development. Now we're down to 47.5% tree canopy. Keep going down. And now we're up to 24% of Mecklenburg County is paved. So when Commissioner Leek says, why are we still growing? I think the same thing. Like, what are we doing? You know, like, smart growth hasn't been smart. And a lot of you know I was on the Park Commission for 9 years before I was elected. And I feel like I got put into a little bit of a box, which is okay, but I want to talk about that. Because I got put into this stereotype. Like, oh yeah, she loves parks. She is addicted to parks. She loves pathways. Earth girl. You bet I love parks and greenways and nature preserves and everything about them. They are for everyone. But it's way deeper than that. The National Association of Park and Rec has 3 pillars: health and wellness, equity, and environmental stewardship and resilience. It is the reason I served on the Park Commission. And I did my best to be balanced, while my focus was on protecting natural resources. Through the process of serving all those years, I learned how much Park and Rec does to protect natural resources. Also learned a lot about how much stormwater does, and the great partnership that Park and Rec has with stormwater. You cannot separate health and wellness from the natural environment. They are completely intertwined. So I have some slides, and I want to talk about some of them, because I can give you all kinds of statistics. We've done it. Since I've been elected, Chairman Dunlap was kind enough to make sure that when I asked for an environmental stewardship committee, he said, well, you have to bring it to the board. And we brought it to the board, and we've had a committee since 2019, unanimous. We established an environmental leadership action plan, a conservation and preservation framework, a farmland preservation framework, voluntary ag districts. We have done the work. I can show you all kinds of slides and numbers. There is nothing as powerful as that. I don't need to tell you anything else. Like, there should be sirens on this map of where we're headed for air quality and water quality. Without intentional, strategic thinking about land acquisition now, like now, what is left? There's not much left. So it's not like you can put it off. We have to figure out what we can get as quick as we can get it to protect it. It's the only way to protect it. So the pink is the #1 threat to water quality. Land protection, land acquisition, land protection is the best way to keep our streams clean and our drinking water safe. For all these decades, there has been by right development. By right. No urban growth boundaries, no impact fees. Because the state limits local control, the only way to protect this is public ownership. The bulk of this protection is done by strategic land acquisition, by stormwater services and park and recreation. So I'm going to go to my slides. This is one of our nature preserves. A lot of different things happen. Cultural events, nature events. The reason it's a nature preserve is we have an endangered grasshopper sparrow living there. But there's lots of different things that we have in Morrill Hill. And I just thought this was a pretty picture. But these are the spaces that everybody went to during COVID. These are mental health spaces in addition to everything else. This is a barred owl on one of our greenways who, it says, give an audible signal before passing. I just thought it was but you can't have a place for wildlife to live if you don't have natural green space. This is a southern leopard frog living on the Catawba River on one of our properties. These are my pictures. So, and how sad is that? That it's so rare to see. I mean, that we have developed almost every square inch of Mecklenburg County to where it's rare to see them, and they don't really have a place to live. So, in addition to all the good that Park and Rec does for air and water, it also protects wildlife habitat. Wildlife habitat matters. one of the most expensive, horrible public health problems in the world was because of the disappearance of a vulture in India. More than 500,000 people died just because the vulture disappeared and all the things that happened after that. So balance matters, like circle of life matters. Oh, I have to go back to that one. So that was an injured raptor that was rehabbed at the Raptor Center, and you have to find a safe place to release them. The only safe place that they felt that they could release that one was at McDowell Nature Center. So that's where they released that one. Pathways are popular. This is an opening in Commissioner Meyer's district a couple years, like 2018-ish, 2017 maybe, and Lee Jones is in there. But I just wanted to show, like, not only is it good for wildlife and water and air, but it's good for humans because there's the health and wellness and recreation component. They're very popular. I say the word biodiversity a lot. This is some biodiversity. This is also tree canopy. So you can see, like, natural biodiversity, not a monoculture of crepe myrtles or non-native. This is a natural system, so I see a lot of people don't have any respect for natural systems, don't understand the importance, but it all works together. Like, there are things about mushrooms we don't even know. So when we were in elementary school, people said the gallbladder had no function. People think mushrooms have no function. They do. We just don't know everything about them yet. But when you interrupt a forest to pave an industrial site, it's not like you can get it back by tree planting. You have ruined the natural system. This is happening all over the county. Actually, it's happening regionally. This is development, sedimentation going into our creeks and streams. This is my picture. These are when I get phone calls about this, like, it's cancer on the water. So the sedimentation is killing everything alive in the creek. And every stream, I think this is right, correct me if I'm wrong, every stream in Charlotte is impaired. And almost every stream in Mecklenburg County is impaired because of things like this. So those are, and I have hundreds more pictures if you want to see any more, but those are the ones that I just picked out because you can't send big email files to the county government site. It rejects the big emails. So before I call up my subject matter experts, I want to thank everyone for listening to understand. This is all for the public good. So while I've been stereotyped as a park lover, which I'm okay with, it's way more than that. Like, I want everyone to be able to breathe comfortably. I want everyone to be able to have clean water. And I really can't bear to see people suffer. I cannot give this presentation without thinking about Rusty Roselle. I carry his passion with me. This map, if somebody would put the 2024 map back on there, I would appreciate it. It was hard for us to look at together. So I just can't even give this presentation without thinking of him. And I don't want to get choked up. One more thing before I call my subject matter experts. The big takeaway, I think I said it, strategic land acquisition is urgent. 2024 map should have sirens all around it. I thought about that. I thought about how could I do it so nobody would ever forget, like, how important this is. I even had weird dreams about it last night, where Rebecca and Taylor Swift were up here with me, and we had a song. We had a song about, like, this is serious. This is serious. This out of balancedness impacts health and wellness. It impacts humanity. It increases suffering. It's up to elected leaders to do better. And, really, these are the elements of life. If we aren't adequately protecting our natural resources, what are we doing here? Because you can't do anything else without clean air and clean water. And I learned something this year from Mr. Levine about making sure that we communicate well with each other, because he never knew how important natives were until he asked for that tax incentive. And I learned about, and I want to say this right, Commissioner Altman, the Tikkun Olam, did I say it right? It's a Jewish concept, and I believe in it. I grew up very Catholic, but I believe in this concept, and it's about repairing the world. I believe that we have a responsibility to care for the environment through sustainability and stewardship to decrease suffering, and that is part of the Jewish philosophy. And it was just like one of the greatest moments of being elected, because when he understood the impact, he said, I wish I had known all along. And so I'm sharing all of this in case, I feel like I've shared it before, a lot of it before, but the vulnerability of why this matters to me. I was standing in Levine Cancer Institute for a few hours. I was there for a few hours the other day, and same things were going through my head, all these cancers. I am walking through the Levine Cancer Institute, surrounded by people being treated in all different phases of treatment, and there's cancer everywhere. There's buildings of cancer treatments, floors with different kinds of cancer, knowing that all of that is not genetic, that there has been some environmental impact, and that the research continues, but that it is upon us as elected leaders to do what we can to protect the environment. And Park and Rec and Stormwater are pretty much the guardians of that for Mecklenburg County. So that concludes my comments, I think, and I don't know how much time I have, but I would like to invite my subject matter experts up. So I have Chris Matthews in here somewhere, I think. Oh, okay, and I have Bert, if you would come up, and then I have Peter Cook. So if you guys would come up in case there's any questions for you.
Commissioner, we have 20 minutes left in your block. So
yay, faster than I thought.
Yep.
So these are, come on up.
All right, so what we're going to do, we're going around table, but I'm starting to the right this time. So we're going to do 2 minutes so we can stay within time. Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you for your truth. I appreciate your honesty, I really do, and your passion. First of all, thank you for highlighting that there is an intersection between green space and health and wellness. The city has the Tree Commission. The city has Tree Charlotte, correct? Is that's their goal, or is that our goal? And how do we work with the city? And I know I've asked this question, but I just don't see it as this is continuing to happen. What are we doing to stop it?
So I'll say my part and then you guys can talk. What do you do when you don't have control over some things besides try to advocate to them, but it still keeps happening? And what do you do? Strategic land acquisition. So, I can't imagine they're going to meet the 50 by 50 in a natural way. And when you see it happening, people keep lowering the bar. Oh, well, maybe we'll have 45% by 50. But what do we do? It's good to have the partnership and talk to them, but how much control do we have? And the only control we really have is over the land we own. And the other part, people think we own so much land. So I asked GIS. So I asked GIS to put on the map what we own. So we put it in bars because it's protected because we own it. So if you come up at the lunch break and look at this map of what we own, it's not very much. And the bulk of what we own is around Mountain Island Lake, which is our drinking water. So we bought it to protect it. So really, like, what do you do when you can't control other things? You try to get control of it yourself. And so, Bert, would you like to speak to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning. Yes, good morning. So we work with the city in several different ways. One is from a land acquisition standpoint. So if we have a target that maybe doesn't work for our needs, we share that with the city. They use some of their impact fees that they get, or I guess their mitigation fees, to acquire land for tree canopy protection. We work with Tree Charlotte to do tree canopy restoration or expansion on some of our properties where we don't have tree cover right now. And then we work with them throughout the rewriting of the Unified Development Ordinance. We got some progress in that, but nothing that's mandatory. It's incentive-based. And in the 2.5 years or so that we've had, since that time, we've only had, I think, 3 developers come and work to try to use that incentive. So because we don't have land development authority, when it comes to development, we're somewhat handcuffed in what we're able to do there.
Commissioner Rodriguez McDowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Powell, thank you. I've learned so much from you these 7 years that we've been together, and I am so grateful. When you said, I have a couple of questions. When you said we can't do more than the state says, I want to understand what you were referring to there. And also, I wanted to know, if you were queen of the world, what is the answer as far as, like, I know you said strategic land, acquiring land strategically, but do you think that density, higher density is the answer? And so if you can speak to those, that'd be great.
So I'm going to ask Chris Matthews to answer part of that, because density matters, because you don't want to gobble up every bit of green space. But I also have to say, like, it's so dense here already. You know, like, when you talk about water capacity, I said it yesterday, the tiny little Catawba River can't handle much more. So density is good, like if we were talking about a different county, but also, like, it's way smarter to have density and go up than it is to.
That's what I meant. Density meaning, I'm sorry, I should have said it better. Like, you mean like going vertical with building as opposed to, less impervious.
Yes, and then if you're going to do, these things, do it on, like, less precious land, because there's not much left. But I want Chris to talk to that.
Which part of that question?
So how do we decide what land acquisition?
You may want to weigh in on this too.
Chris and Bert, whoever.
So good morning, Chris Matthews. One of the things that this board did a long time ago, before y'all were here, but the past Board of County Commissioners, was that they recognized that if we didn't protect our drinking water, that the water would get dirty and it would cost a lot of money to clean it up, and Charlotte Water would have to pass those costs on to all the residents in Mecklenburg County. And so what they did was they charged stormwater and park and rec and real estate to go and buy land around our drinking water supply, which is Mountain Island Lake. And that's one of the best things environmentally that this board has ever told us to do, because it's helped keep costs down for our residents. And so when we go out and buy land, we're not only looking for land for active park use, for ball fields and playgrounds. We're not only looking at it for greenways, but we're also looking at it to protect our water supply. and to keep our air quality as high as it can be. I saw an article the other day, asthma is on a major increase here in Mecklenburg County. It's a big deal. So by being strategic and buying land along streams and creeks to help protect those from development, to help protect our drinking water supply, to do all these things to help keep our tree canopy in place, we're not only protecting the birds and the butterflies, but we're protecting people at the same time. And so that's really what Park and Rec does. We're looking for recreation for sure, but we're also interested in making sure that our residents are healthy, they have their mental health, and help to mitigate some of the impacts that we have from actually a quite sprawling community. Do you want to add anything else? Okay.
Commissioner Dunlap.
First of all, thank you for the presentation. Of course, I think you'd be crazy if they didn't know just how passionate you are about your subject matter. But I'll be one of the first to admit, I struggle when it comes to balancing your desire to acquire more land, and I see the need. I understand the need. I understand health and wellness. But if you've never been hungry, if you've never been homeless, it's hard to understand why the acquisition of some of this land is more important than feeding the bellies of homeless children. And so you have to strike a balance. I have not understood where that balance comes from, because I understand what it's like to be hungry. And so while the need is there, I struggle with balancing that passion against what so many people in this community need. I don't want to go play in the park if I'm hungry. The park won't feed me. So talk to me about how you balance that, because I struggle.
So the first thing that comes to mind is a lot of conversations that I've had with former Commissioner Rembert. And even listening to Chairman Jarrell. Who says that they're not all important priorities? We all agree. We all raised our hand to agree on the priorities that we decided on. And I'm really glad that Chairman Jarrell reviews them every meeting. We all agreed to that. They're all important. And how do you address them in balanced ways? Because you can't ignore that, but you can't ignore this. And you can't ignore mental health, and you can't ignore food security. And how do you balance it? And that is the tough part of our job. But Mecklenburg County is an economic engine for the state of North Carolina. If we don't address this, this will not be a desirable place to live. The quality of life will go down. People won't want to live here. And it, in my view, will be just like another kind of Baltimore. Or Atlanta. Who wants to move there anymore? So it's like Commissioner Jarrell says, it's a both and. We have to balance it. So I'm not saying that this priority trumps every other priority. They all matter. And how do we do it in a balanced way? But this cannot be dismissed. You can't say, oh, environmental stewardship, because it is dismissed throughout the nation. Like, people will say, we'll get to that later. I don't know how you're going to get to it later. This is dangerous. The pink, it's kind of hard to reverse. So I hope that answers your question.
Come to Commissioner Altman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to say, Commissioner Powell, the genuineness and authenticity that you bring to the role shines through so beautifully, even though you disclaim being an introvert. I want you to know that. And I want to say also that you have to be one of the most successful commissioners in memory in terms of with the support of the board, but your achievement, your record of achievement is pretty amazing. And I just want to take a moment to salute you. That's number one. This is a very important conversation. I think our chairman emeritus has once, as he so often does, put his finger on the salient question, and it's one that you have always raised, which is balance. What is the proper balance? Because we do have a lot of alignment on our value set here. It's just where is striking the right balance? So, I look forward to our budget process where we look at the dollars that we're allocating to all these different essential things and continue to ask ourselves that hard question. I will be interested in Park and Recreation bringing forward an update. Maybe only I need it, but when I remember there were real gaps in equity around park access, and that was 6 years ago when I was first hearing that. And later on, not today, I'll look forward to getting that understanding what improvements we've made in terms of literally achieving equity with access in park resources. And another thing I'll be interested in to inform the conversation, Mr. Manager, is how do other similarly sized communities, kind of like I was asking around homelessness, I don't want to compare us to New York. I'll finish up real fast. We're not New York. But I also don't want to compare us to Mayberry. And I don't want to compare us to communities that are stagnating, because I don't want us to stagnate and go backwards. So similarly sized communities that have our value set around environmental protection, I just want to understand where we are and what's best practice for a community this size. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Townsend Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So most of my questions were answered. I do have two, though. One is public-private partnerships. Would that help or hurt? Because when I think of public, or private rather, I think of Duke Energy and how they are literally running us. I probably shouldn't have said that out loud on camera.
It's out.
But is that a good thing, a bad thing, and is there room or strategy to involve them more?
So I'm going to ask whichever park professional wants to volunteer to answer that, because I don't have any awareness of any successful.
So we actually have a really good relationship with Duke Energy.
Sorry. Maybe not now.
From time to time, we work with them on protecting some of our endangered species that reside in their power line rights of way. We're looking at opportunities with them to increase pollinators, and which is an important keystone concept for keeping our nature safe. We've been working with them on some of the issues that have occurred for the flooding down along Riverside Drive below Mountain Island Lake. And so, Duke is certainly an organization that has a big impact on our environment just because of what they do. But we've been working really, really hard to kind of soften their approach, and they've been fairly receptive to working with us to mitigate some of the impacts that they've had.
How can we partner with the land acquisition part? What is the strategic plan on getting, and can that be employed, the public partnership part?
So I'll just make a quick comment, and it looks like Nick wants to say something. One of the things that's a real challenge for Mecklenburg County is that when we're looking at protecting and having open space, which is parks and other stuff, we're the biggest entity in Mecklenburg County that owns land. The state has no state lands, and the federal government has no federal lands in Mecklenburg County. So it's really up to us. So if we're here to provide land for our residents and to give them a place to go, that's one of the primary reasons why we have such a focus on making sure that we're providing that infrastructure. Nick?
I think the manager's already highlighted some of the efforts that are being taken place with other municipal and governmental entities that are purchasing land, because at the end of the day, a large portion of the land that we need in gap areas and areas where we need to work on equity are owned by other entities. And so strengthening those relationships and having a better understanding of their development need for those properties can go a long way to not buying a property twice. That's probably the easiest way to put that.
And one more thing I want to say, Elaine, your presentation was amazing. I do understand the connection, one, because I come from West Virginia, and a lot of my family members died early ages from cancer-causing agents, and I know environmental factors. But what I would love to see, and this is not a question that can be answered today, but I would love to see, in addition to our priorities being read, just a reminder of the linkages among the priorities, because there's a method to our madness in the priorities that we chose, because they all feed into the other, and yours actually feeds into my presentation, a portion of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Leek.
Let me say thank you for your presentation. Number one, I enjoy parks. I enjoy walking in the Greenway. And thank you for bringing that attention to this board. But when I think about the county, human services is always before me, human services. And that's why I stick closely with that. And the city has its responsibility, and are we holding the city accountable for its responsibility? People move here for the land, leave in New York, Chicago, wherever. And here we are putting more housing and not taking care of the infrastructure. So I have to stay with the human services aspect.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Leek. But health and wellness is totally connected to humans. I showed the wildlife habitat, but I also showed the people. And I have lots more pictures to show you, because everywhere I go, the people are there, Like, sometimes it's so crowded, we get complaints about, oh, you need rules. You need to divide the Greenway. Like, you need to, no e-bikes. Like, these kids are crazy driving around on their e-bikes. And so they're for the people. They're for all the people, but they also provide wildlife habitat. And I don't know if you guys want to say anything. Okay. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Griffin.
Commissioner Powell, you did just a phenomenal job in terms of your presentation. Your commitment, your dedication to your work is just phenomenal. Looking at your three maps, looking at the 2007-2008 map, and then looking at 24, and just looking at the concentration is just phenomenal. I mean, I haven't looked at these maps in the same way in terms of impervious impact in Mecklenburg County. So thank you for enlightening me. The other piece is when you go back to the 2007-2008 map, you see a lot of opportunities as relates to various things. And, I'm going to talk about regional park in southwest Mecklenburg County before that disappears in terms of health and wellness, before it turns all pink too, because it's coming in that direction. The question I would have for you and your team, what I have been involved with is some discussions around something called stormwater, whatever the things are in the ground for stormwater. There is a question about jurisdiction, because in some parts of the county, there's city jurisdiction for stormwater in the county, and then there's county stormwater activities, and sometimes who regulates those? For example, there's a project in Southwest where the development potential runoff that you showed us in one of these, your very last picture, is going to head directly into Lake Wylie. There's no question about it. But the question is, who's responsible when there's both city stormwater jurisdiction and county stormwater jurisdiction in the same geography? Who takes the lead?
They work together, but I have that in my district, like right where Riverside and River Haven are with all the flooding. So I don't know if Ebenezer wants to answer that question.
Commissioner, it depends on the specific instance. We gather the information. Again, the city and the county work very closely to make sure that the compliance is achieved. We don't worry about jurisdiction boundaries. They work as a team, so we can kind of help you resolve that depending on the specific instance.
And it's the best city-county team I've ever seen. You know, like, they really work together. Did you guys want to add anything? Okay. All right.
I'm good.
Elaine, thanks for the presentation. Definitely enlightening. A couple of things that I would want to say. Staff, I want to make a request for information. On my presentation yesterday, I showed where by 2050, we projected to have 1.7 million people here, and Commissioner Powell made a comment saying that the Catawba River could not handle that. So what I'd like to understand, I'd like the board to understand this. At what point is growth a threat to the community? Like, what's the number of population with our current levels that we can handle? I want to understand what that number is. Is it 2.1 million people? Is it 2.5? 1.7? I don't know what that is. And so as we're moving forward, I think it's important for the community to understand if we don't address growth, are we addressing growth the right way?
No.
So I would like that, and if you need clarification on that, I'll follow up offline. The second thing is, whenever we have a critical issue in the community at a macro level, such as a COVID, we come together, city, county, school board, nonprofit, private sector, we all come together at a macro level. And when I think about balance, and I think about this equation of both and, I think at the micro level, so with the county, I would love to see Park and Rec not isolate or work in isolation outside of Ms. Hart with understanding the equation of housing, or someone from Dr. Washington's team with respect to health and human services. Like, I would love to be able to see, and I know we do collaborate, so I'm not saying, but every decision that we're making, so if it's land acquisition, which, in my opinion, doesn't make me right, we should be having the discussion around what does it mean with respect to housing, what does that mean, this acquisition mean with respect to the other components of the priority. And so having someone embedded from the team that's informing all of those discussions so that when you guys come to us with acquisition, it is a full-throated thing. It's almost like what you guys had done on the school board when you're saying, okay, we built these schools and these campuses, 20 acres with this intent to say, you know, you have the education center, you have the land, you have the activation of the park, and it's almost this mini community. So my point is, I think we should really have careful consideration in the way that we're approaching these issues moving forward. And I just don't believe that where we are as a community, as a state, as a country, the 20th century approach to the segmented, siloed approach to this department is responsible just for park. This department is responsible for housing. This department. I really think that people should be embedded, informing, and coming to us with a comprehensive solution that is forward-thinking. So I'll leave it at that. Obviously, that's not board direction. That's one commissioner speaking. But at some point when it's appropriate, I would love for us to potentially examine if that's something that we would get consensus on the board to consider how we do how we approach these issues. So I will leave it at that.
So I appreciate that because, like you see, the problems have become so exaggerated as the population has grown. And, the land that has been purchased in the past was purchased that way. That's how it's normally done throughout the nation. But now that we're in this explosive growth, if you want to talk to, how we could do that in the future, looking at like the parts that are really important to acquire for natural resources, but maybe expanding how much you bought to where you bought more land for housing near a park. You want to talk to that?
It's actually a really long answer, but I'll try and be super short with it. So many communities, when they have a park department, it's married up with the planning department. And in our community, planning is in the city and parks is in the county. And so we're continuing to strengthen our relationship with the planning department so that as they begin to, approve development and work with developers, we're also at the table to say, hey, we need to also be able to provide green space and open space as part of the whole package, right? So one of the questions that came up in your meeting last week was there's 157 people that move into Mecklenburg County, Charlotte every day. And the question was, how many people are leaving? I did some research, and that's a net number. So there's 157 net people moving in, which accounts for folks that are also leaving. So as we try to provide human health services for those people, social services, we need to provide roads, we need to provide hospitals, we need to provide police stations, fire stations. We also, as the county, need to provide recreation and open space for those folks, right? And so it's really, to your point, we really need to make sure that we're talking amongst ourselves and working with each other, not only within the county, but also within each municipality to make sure that we're providing all of the things that all of the people need.
Go ahead. You jump in.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the manager, and maybe, Tyrone, you could look it up if it's still available. We had an interlocal agreement signed by the school system, the city, and the county. And subsequently, as we were growing, we brought in the small towns because, we weren't out there that far at that point. But that was something where there was a piece of paper commitment that we would sit at the table as we built schools. There were consideration for parks. That's why some parks are close to some of your older schools. If we could reinvent that, Mr. Chairman, that might begin to answer some of the questions about potential joint planning.
I know you referenced that yesterday as well. We'll have to take a look at that.
So Nick, I know you want.
Yeah, I was just going to add in that some of what you were talking about today exists informally. So again, when we are looking at acquisition, one of the first people that we have a conversation with is LaShonda about, does this make sense? And I'll be honest with you that it sounds like, again, only been here 9 months, but it sounds like that hasn't always been the conversation because they're so open to it. Because when you see these developments, a lot of times they're touting how close they are to greenways. They include it in their name, how close they are to a park. Likewise, having that same conversation about affordable housing, because it increases the quality of the affordable housing as well, I think is important.
So before we break for lunch, what I want to just say really quickly is this, is that what I just said, obviously there is not a consensus, so I want to be very clear with what I'm saying. I'm not making an ask, but my intent is to gain board consensus to have a potential discussion. So the manager and I have talked about a little more frequency of open dialogue, discussion among the board in an structured, informal way, I guess, is for lack of a better word. And this is one of those items that I would really like to tee up to take a deeper dive, only because, to your point, Nick, it is informal. And that can yield some results. But to Commissioner Griffin's point, to formalize, to me, is something different. in a formalization of a process or the way we do business may be something that we have to discuss moving towards. So I'm going to leave it there and say thank you, Commissioner Powell, and subject matter experts.
Yeah, I want to thank my subject matter experts because they are some of the best employees in the county. So thank you guys for being here. Thanks for your help. And I want to thank Sean again for like being such a great person to help with coordinating this. I want to thank GIS because they worked really hard on these maps. And so Scott Black, Andy Goretti, and Jai Wei, thanks to GIS. And I want to say the last thing, like, I will not back down on the urgency of this, and I won't back down on human health. I am here because of the suffering I have seen. It impacts human health. I wouldn't have spent 36 years just because I love parks. I spent 36 years because, like, other people are suffering. And it's up to elected leaders to make responsible choices for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell.